Welcome to episode 6 of AI Horizons, Framing the Future How AI is Transforming Visual Content at Scale. This is Eva Wong. I'm part of the Asia AI Global Black Belt team. We are a team of specialists in AI and machine learning across Microsoft that engage our largest customer on driving AI strategies and adoptions. And I'm very excited to have you with us today. In this episode, we will explore how AI is reshaping the creative process across industries, from retail and finance to manufacturing and media. You will hear from my fellow GBB experts, Ralph and Andrea, on the latest in image and video generation and see how these tools are being used to cut production time, personalize campaigns, and scale content creation like never before. We picked this topic because visual content is everywhere in marketing, communication, training, and more. And while creating compelling visuals has traditionally been time consuming and expensive, recent breakthroughs in AI are changing that. Models like GPT Image 1 are helping businesses generate high quality, brand consistent visuals on demand, tailored to different audiences, regions, and use cases. And you will also see how Sora could animate your ideas and bring them to life. Over to you now, Rafael.
Excellent. Thanks, Eva. All righty. Welcome to the image one and image generation. So, as you know, so far we've been really interacting, and there was a lots of buzz around the text generation, any form of Gen AI which generates lots of text. And we know as much as text is powerful, it's a really powerful form of the communication. Images, as Eva said, they're everywhere around us. And we are really visual species as well. So images are not going anywhere. And with the technologies as we got right now, they're only getting better and better. For the past months, we saw the massive spark in models which generates images in a very, very efficient way. So that definitely we know that's the editorial process, image generation process, and any form of graphic design is a quite expensive and lengthy process. So having a form of the image generations is definitely increase the efficiency, shorten the time to market, help us to do any form of personalization. So this is completely new area where we can just convert from one region to another, some form of digital representation, and this could be done in a very, very short period of time. And a localization as well, we can have regions and cultures and regulations. As we look on the impact on the image generation on the different industries, we can see that communication media is definitely somewhere where the image generation had a very quick and impact, but also technology and software. Technology and software uses a lot of image resources to produce any form of communication. We've got a graphical user interfaces, we've got any form of messaging, tutorials, and any other form of communication with the user. Retail and e-commerce is a huge one where I think the image generation will definitely have the significant impact, if not having right now. And this is something what I want to show you later in a session. Finance and banking, any form of visualizations and any form of representation of even what we are doing right now, any form of PowerPoints and a communication to the employees within is a really powerful forum for the image generation techniques to actually help us to speed up and improve the communication, and obviously manufacturing as well. But to be honest, when I looked into these models, I know that any industry can really benefit from this form of AI. So we can start with a cross-industry use cases, and these are campaign ideations, personalized ads, brand assets, and content at scale. We can have a corporate communication, such as presentations, what I just mentioned, branded infographics, internal comms, trainings, and education. This is a quite good one because we can in Fly we can generate everything what's been very text heavy and driven, and we know some of us we just learn better when we see visual form of the same thing. And then we can have an industry specific use cases where there's technology and software personalized illustrations for user onboarding, documentation and tutorials, retail and e-commerce, finance and banking, and manufacturing. So what really has changed and how this models such as GPT Image 1 can change in the entire editorial process. So previous challenges, we've had time-consuming photo shoots. It took ages, and if we think we've got a model and we it creates one form of the photo shoot, and then we want to do a more scenery-based photo shoot with the same model, this is very, very lengthy and expensive. High cost of revisions. If something's if we want to localize the same set of the images to the another regions, limited flexibility, inconsistent brand visuals. So sometimes different studios will produce different outputs, and we have to engage. If we've got different studios in the different countries, we have to make sure that they communicate well as well. And then many prior solutions in AI, they really lack of precision. And this precision is where the GPT Image 1 really shine. And I've spent them pretty much from the very beginning of the release of the Image 1, I spent the months and months testing this model back and forth just to make sure that what we want from it can actually produce. So it's definitely Image 1 is a best-in-class, it's got a very best-in-class realistic output. And this is somewhere where I think right now, where we are right now, we know that Image 1 is #1 model for creating a high-quality imagery. It's a very accurate and reliable in text rendering. Text rendering is a fantastic addition to this model, something what we were not able to do before. Text was such a difficult thing to do for the image generation model, where with Image 1 is almost effortless, and it surprises us all the time. Precise editing with in-painting. In-painting, I'm going to expand on the in-painting because I've got a very good example, so I'm not going to talk about this right now, but it's a very interesting addition. Representation of the very complex prompts. And this is somewhere where I'm actually very, very surprised myself how well this model can understand very complex prompts and then can take them and create an image based on that. So they're not very simple as well. Consistency in maintaining cohesive objects and aesthetics across visuals. This is where the method of editing it comes to the play, and we can apply the samples of the images, not just one, we can have a multiple, and based on this images we can generate completely new output. And again, I've got a very good examples to show you. And seamless workflow in integration via API is very simple. That's what I want to say. It's very simple, it's very easy to work with. It cannot be simpler than what it is. So this is for anyone who thinks that AI is difficult. With the what we provide through Azure, this API is very, very simple. So your teams can easily take and work with them, and it's very effortless. Okay, so let's look on some examples. This is a very simple prompt where we, in the past, with models such as DALL-E, we could generate some form of imagery. And this is simply text to image. And we can see, oops, sorry. Now you can imagine with something more complex, we can create a really, really detailed and spec image for anything we like. So let's focus on the prompt on the left-hand side, and we can see how detailed this prompt is. When we said, yes, we want to have a whiteboard, and we want this whiteboard to have a reflection of the Paris cityscape in the background. And we want the text to be on one side, this or that. So if we read the prompt and we can say we want to have a business perspective, and we can have a AI enablers, and we want to have a woman having a t-shirt with a writing on a t-shirt, everything is being proportionally added to the image. And look, in a reflection of the board itself, we can see the skyline of the Paris with the Eiffel Tower, with the very good representation of the landmark. So everything's been put together, every single word and a composition being read and implemented into the detail. Fantastic. Image one also comes with something what designers will love, absolutely love. Something like cropping the images and cutting out and putting on a white background has been a really pain in the neck for many. It's a very difficult process to do, where in image one, we can simply say, please make this on a transparent background. And transparent background is super important if we then want to use some form of the imagery in a different composition. So excellent addition to the model, and we can do it just literally by using the APIs. It said, return me this with on a transparent background. So this is automatically for creating any form of marketing materials or the presentation or even visualizations, which we've got like presentations. It can help quite a lot. So one of the advantages of the image one over the other models, which I'm going to show you later as well, is ability to modify the images. So we supply the source image, and we wanted to have the output of the image, the result. So we can supply the image on the left-hand side. We can see a male walking on a street, and we can supply the prompt to the image, and I say, could you just replace the shirt with another casual white with a check pattern, right? So we can see a model effectively swap the garment. The one thing which I would like to point out at this point, and this is something what I'm going to expand as well, this is at this stage, this is a little bit of weakness, which we know, and people are trying to work this out, and I know that there will be probably improvement moving forwards, is at the same time, if you see these males, both of the males, they're now all of a sudden different. So although the model tried its best to have the same scenery, we can see the model on the left automatically it's got a different face on the right. All of the elements are similar, but slightly different. Now we've got another technique which we call mask-based inpainting. And what is mask-based inpainting? It's been ability added to the model where we can specify the area which is very hard to describe, and we say, I would like in this place to some element, let's say, be added or removed or do something with this area. Sometimes typing all of these prompts is not sufficient enough. If we say, okay, like in this example, it would be for me very hard to specify in which part of this ball I would like the QE to be added. So it is much easier with the functionality of the masking, which is a part of the image one. I can literally draw the area and say, in this area, please add me a QE, which is really good. The one thing with masking, what is quite tricky, it depends on the tools we've been using in the past. Some masks are different than others. So this one, we call it a soft mask, not a hard mask, because of the other part of the image will be also manipulated in the same time. So this is a bit of trade-off. We are pointing the model to make a change in this place. However, rest of the image also will be touched, and this is something what I personally I think this is an area for improvement moving forwards. So this is a really advanced example, which I wanted to focus on in my demo as well, where with everything what we've just learned in the previous slides, we can see that we can create a very effective composition. So we can have a picture of the model, we can have a trousers, we can have a shoes, we can have a shirt, and we can blend all of these elements together. We can supply them to the model. We can then ask the model with our prompt what we would like to do with it, and we can create a completely new composition. So imagine back in the day, we will have to have a model having perfectly ironed shirt and having standing in the right way and all of that. With the models such as image one, we can now, without having a model or having a samples with the different positions of the model, we can create the different compositions in fly. And all of these things, the entire process, it takes maybe less than 10 seconds. So, and then we can make amendments to the same compositions, which is fascinating. So I've mentioned a few times in previous examples that some of the parts of the images are going attached as well in a process of us making these versions of the alteration of this image. And this is something where many people right now, they're not necessarily fully happy with it. This is somewhere where it's definitely a room for improvement, and there are some workarounds. So here on this example, we can see from the image from the left going to the right, each time we specifically supply the prompt to make a manipulation of this image. So we said, okay, from the model who's got a blue top and blue bottoms, we would like for this model now to have a variant of this clothing. So make a bottoms red and top also red. First amendment is actually quite good. It's very, very close. We can see the model from the left and right from these two first images is actually very accurate. So this is where a model looks on the entire image each time it generates another variant. And by looking at it, it's trying to recreate the image based on a sample. So more modifications we create might actually play as a disadvantage as well to the entire solution. So the next prompt which I supplied, it was to put the model in a automy setting. So what's happened here is automatically model try to frame the model. It tried to frame in a way so we can see this setting a bit more. So it shuffled the woman slightly lower so we can see the leaves and we can see the background. So it tried to do a good job, but at the same time the proportion slightly changed. And this is coming with this might come with a disadvantage when we're looking on an exact representation of the first image. And then the more alterations, once we start going through, we can see I would say the ethnicity of the woman changed drastically from the very first to the very last image. So these are these are the areas where we can probably see moving forwards to improve. There are workarounds, and this is somewhere where myself and my colleagues we looked into. So the workarounds at this stage are face swap models, which are coming from the deepfake technology. So we can, if we see if we're looking for the consistency of these models, we can actually swap these faces, and we can still have a very good output at the very end. If this is an issue, it's doable, and we had a lot of success with that. Okay, we still got time. So the API. To interact with a image one API, we can interact with via a very simple API where we've got a few parameters. We can use the size, quality, format, compression level, background, and variations. So I would usually advise not to do too many variations based on my own research. Probably if we create more than 3 variances, that's probably completely we might as well just change our prompt, because we are probably doing something incorrectly. So usually the first 2 attempts of the first 2 variances are really, really good. Quality as well, it changes quite a lot. This is a very important parameter. Majority of my examples I've just used the high and obviously you sacrifice with speed, but I would highly recommend. But you can see that based on the API itself, it's super straightforward. You can also use image1 via responsive API. And this is something where there's an article which I wrote as well. A responsive API is something new what we've released. And this is a new API where we can do much more than image generation, but image generation via this responsive by one API is actually super interesting. And interaction with these models is exactly the same as the direct API for the image one. There are other competitors in the market or similar models. However, at this stage, from the success and the feedback, image one is the one where at this stage is definitely based on the consistency of the images. Image one goes above and beyond. Even when we compare something like Imagen 3 or 4 Ultra, which is the latest model just been released by Google, there is lots of feedback based on Imagen Ultra. Although it creates images very fast, it's losing the details. So the biggest disadvantage right now with Imagen is Imagen doesn't support openly editing images, so supplying a sample images and generating images from this supply image. Publicly is only accessible via API, only as a prompt to generate the image without the samples, which is, I think, is a huge disadvantage that probably will change. But if we only compare apples to apples, I can easily see the detail of the image one is just at this stage is on the next level. Okay, so let's jump to the demo. We've got a few more minutes. So this is an app which I've created to compare the different image models and also showcase how we can use these models for creating editorial imagery. So this is a model comparison lab, which compares the image dojo, which compares the images from the different providers, but also it helps us to understand what we can do with these images. So in this case, I started with an input image, which was this, and I'm creating a different variances of the same image. So we can see from the one sample, we can automatically have a different scene shots going through from the first one to the next one to the next one to the next one. And all of this entire timeline we can create within literally few minutes and few prompts. You can see the prompts on the rollover, what type of prompts are supplied here. So for example, to create this output from this image, I supply the input of the image and also a jacket from Amazon. So I said, okay, I would like the model to wear this jacket, and this is my source. And then I've added the prompt, and this is my output. And I can say, okay, now I like this. This is really good. Could you now do fashion runway shot? And model took all of the information and creates the model runway shot. What's really interesting, all of the small details here as well, like the logos and things, is being kept and represented in a right spot as well. And then you can have a variances of the same model with a different colors, and at any point of time you can create another versions of it. So it's definitely a very powerful tool, and once we've got all of that things, we can even use another model, and this another model could create us, based on the images we just created, a description of the scene for SEO. So in this case, I've created myself from the whole series of the images, and I said, okay, but now I need a description as a SEO person, and model can create and understands and vision the image as well, and even try to estimate approximately the height and everything what is in this image, what's the set being used. So this is one of the things. Other things we can obviously see here, we've got image one. That's the image being generated by the image one from the prompt only. And this is the same image from the same prompt generated by the Imagen. So this is Imagen in some form of the images. That's actually doing a quite good job. However, any next alteration to the images, this one is image 1 based on a source image, and here is based on the Imagen, and that's completely blurry and not very good image at all. So in my opinion, we can definitely have a very interesting use for the image generations when we've got this type of use case. And with that, we've got also a video generation. And the video generation has been fantastic as well for the past few months. But I'm going to let the scene to Andreas, who will take you through it.
Thank you very much, Rafa. That was amazing. So I hope you can see my slide. I would like to talk about video generation with the new Azure OpenAI Sora model. And we've talked a lot about image generation. Maybe in contrast, what can we expect from a video generation model? And if we look at the video production workflow in a simplified way from ideation, production, and post-production, it's fair to say because of the complexity to generate a video, you cannot expect a blockbuster movie just based on a text prompt. At least not today. Maybe things will change in the future. But if we look at all those stages of the workflow, video generation models like Sora can play their role definitely. I think it's fair to say that the sweet spot is in the ideation phase when it's about concept development, storyboarding, just trying things out instead of text-written descriptions of scenes or pencil sketches. But also in production. So I was part of the private preview of Sora. We supported a couple of customers, and for certain media types, like social media ads, for example, you can also use it for production purposes. And also you can think of video generation models like Sora, like smart video editors. So for example, if you have an existing scene, you have existing footage and you want to extend it, this is something you can do very nicely with Sora. So you have to be selective in terms of prompt engineering. It's more sophisticated, it's more challenging than just creating an image, because think of an image is an image, but a 10 seconds video with Sora is 300 images, so it's 300 frames. It's much more challenging in terms of physics and also temporal consistency. This is something we have to have in mind. This is why there are many flavors of video generation capabilities. So we have text to video, we have image to video, and we also have video to video, and all there are different flavors of those capabilities. Not all of them are available with Azure OpenAI Sora. I will introduce you to all those capabilities, and then we will see what's possible today with Sora on Azure OpenAI and what will be coming next. So the easiest, the simplest form is just text to video. And you see two examples here. So we have a very concise, very small text prompt. So on the left-hand side, for example, steam rising from a pan of food, and we have a nice video generated. So that is relatively straightforward, and in many cases can already produce good quality. You have to iterate a little bit more compared to image generation models like GPT Image 1, but usually you get a good result after a couple of attempts. You can go a bit further. You can also ask for changes. So for example, here at second 4, we are asking for a more intensified view of the steam, for example, but it's still text to video, but with several text prompts. So this is something you can do, for example, on Sora.com with OpenAI. The next use case, which is quite interesting, if you want to feature a specific brand or a specific atmosphere, like in this case, you can also do image to video. So you can start your video generation based on an input image, but you also can steer the generation by providing an additional text prompt. So it's an image usually, and then you say what the model should do based on this input image, so how the scene should advance, for example. Another thing you can do is now switching to video. So you are using an existing video, and that's a quite powerful capability. So you ask for changes in the video. So for example, in this case, we are asking for more background of this kitchen experience to show a little bit more context. One of my favorites is this one, which shows also the power of this multi-models, which really have a good understanding of what's happening in the scene, and we can refer to it. So on the left-hand side, we have a text-to-video use case where we are creating a video based on this longer text prompt, and then we are feeding those videos in and asking for changes like make the woman in her late 30s or make the woman in her late 70s. So this is the power of those multi-model models which understand what's happening in the scene. We can refer to the subject, to the woman in this case, and then ask for changes. So this was an overview of what's possible with video generation in general. With Sora.com as a reference point. As I already mentioned, not everything is available yet on Azure OpenAI. So we have just introduced Sora and Azure OpenAI shortly after build. Excuse me. So it has an API integration, which is nice and which is very exclusive to Azure OpenAI. So OpenAI does not have an API for Sora. You just have the UI. On Azure OpenAI, you have the API experience. There is a video playground in Azure AI Foundry. We have started with text to video, and image to video is coming soon. You can create up to 20-second clips with up to 1080p, which is more or less the state of the art in video generation models. We have also created a solution accelerator, which we call Visionary Lab, for image generation and also for video generation. So it's a combined experience for both. Currently, it supports GPT Image 1 and also video generation with Sora. And you can think of it as a nice example implementation of what customers can do when they want to expose those content generation capabilities either to their employees or also to their customers to basically resell those capabilities. It supports the end user by prompt enhancements, so you can start with a very simple prompt. The model is aware of all best practices for prompt engineering for GPT Image 1 and also for Sora, and will enhance the prompt on behalf of the user. And you also can ask for custom brand protection. So there are many marketing use cases where you probably want to avoid that competitor brands, for example, are generated. So there is also a policy that you can trigger for custom brand protection. You can create those assets based on a text prompt, based on image input. So it also supports edits. And finally, that was quite interesting. I supported one of the private preview customers for Sora, and they generated more than 800 videos just in 3 days. So you have to have a way to organize your assets. So what we are doing, we are analyzing them. We are generating intelligent tags for metadata management. And also you can organize your assets in a library. So you can define your folders to manage hundreds or even thousands of images or videos. And with that, I would like to briefly show you the experience, starting with image generation and then also video generation. So you see on the left-hand side, we have currently both capabilities, image generation and also video generation. You can organize all your content in folders that you specify, which is quite helpful. And if we are starting based on the example that Rafael also shared, so we are asking for our champagne brand Visionary Lab, but we want to have it with a transparent background so we can position it in all kinds of scenes. You can see the result here. We get a couple of nice bottles, and on the right-hand side, we get all those AI insights. We get a description, we can get very rich visual metadata, and we also get suggestions for improvements. Here is the prompt, the brand protection example. So let's assume we are Microsoft. We want to protect our brand. So if somebody is asking for a competitor visual, like this example of a PlayStation, they can still ask for a prompt enhancement. And at this level, it will still ask for a PlayStation. But what's now happening in the background is that the brand protection kicks in and it will either neutralize or replace the PlayStation by an Xbox product. So in this case, we are asking for the more aggressive form to replace it with our product. It could also neutralize it and would show a non-branded a gaming console. In this case, we are selecting the more aggressive form. So this can be interesting for a couple of marketing use cases. And then finally, the example that Rafa also showed is an advanced edit scenario where we say, okay, we have this image of the woman and we want to see her in the jeans, in the shirt, and also in those shoes. And you get a very nice catalog image of exactly what you are asking for, based on just 4 input images and based on a very simple text prompt. So it's easy. So specifically with GPT Image 1, things are very, very easy. Rafa also mentioned that you can do mask-based inpainting. This is not always necessary because you can also describe your mask area, but if you want to be very precise or it's not easy to describe the area, you can also do mask-based inpainting, as you see here. And then we are asking for a colorful polo shirt, and voila, this is the example. So this is Visionary Lab for image generation, but of course, as I mentioned, you can also use it for video generation. So let's take a look how this looks like. Currently, it only supports Sora text to video. We will add image to video soon once the API is released, but you already get an idea of what's possible and also the quality. We also have this prompt enhancement, which is very important for Sora. So here you have an example. This could be a movie storyboard, like a fluffy monster detecting an old typewriter, and then decides to become a world-class novelist. Or here, this could be, for example, for gaming promotion. So a very nice scene, Victorian steampunk scene. The quality, I really like this one. The quality is very, very good. Or we had a couple of customers working on marketing and commercials use cases. So here we are positioning a new perfume, a new fragrance, and you see the quality here. Of course, this will get even more interesting once we have image to video, because then you could say, okay, this is an image of the specific product that we are looking for, and now create an ad. Here in this case, it's just text to video, but yeah, the quality is very, very nice, I would say. For those of you who are interested more on the technical side, how this works. So this is the generation workflow of Visionary Lab. So currently we are supporting image generation and video generation for those two models, GPT Image 1 and also Sora. We are also evaluating to support different models. So Flux, for example, could be an interesting use case, but because it also will be a first-class citizen in Azure AI Foundry, so one of those direct models, and it's also a very powerful image generation model. And the workflow overall looks like this. So you specify your original text prompt or input images in the case of edits. Then you can provide further user input. You've seen like the resolution, the quality, the number of variants. Then we have the generation phase itself, which can take 60 seconds, 90 seconds, and then the final assets are generated. So this is a very generic workflow, but I think the power of Visionary Lab is really that it helps with those optional prompt enhancements. So if the user asks for a prompt rewrite, which is really optimized for the image generation model, specifically for Sora, this is very powerful. And then we also have this policy specified brand protection. So the idea is this is nothing that the user can control. This is something that the administrator specifies. So for example, if we have a public use case where we let consumers create social media images around our brand, we definitely don't want that competitor images are generated. And for such use cases, this brand protection is very powerful. And then we are analyzing those images or also videos. So you always get a summary using GPT-4.1. You get very useful visual metadata that you can use for asset management. And you also get feedback. So you say, okay, this is for marketing purposes, and then it will review the image and will say, okay, for marketing purposes, you might want to consider featuring your brand more prominently, for example. You can also already think of a kind of agentic application where then a new suggestion for a prompt is generated, and then you can feed it again into the generation model. In terms of technical architecture, so the solution accelerator is public on GitHub. I will share the link in a second. You see here the models that we are using. We have a Python fast API based backend and a Next.js based front end for the UI. And we have Azure Blob Storage at the moment, so it's relatively straightforward. But the nice thing is we also have a hosted version for you just to try it out, to play with it. And if you want to deploy it, if you want to share it with your customers, work with your customers, here is the URL for the GitHub repo. And with that, I would like to say thank you very much for your interest. Try out Visionary Lab, try out those models, try out Raphael's tool. And with that, I'm handing over back to Eva.
Thanks, Andrea. And it's an awesome demo and sharing session, both Rafa and Andrea. Thanks for your time. And I hope all of you have enjoyed the sharing from Ralph and Andrea. So today we explored how AI is reshaping the way we create, personalize, and scale visual content across industry. From GPT Image1's precision in image generation to Sora's breakthrough in video creation. We have seen how these tools are helping businesses to cut production costs and time and boost engagement and unlock new creative possibilities. We talk about how AI is helping business to resolve all this creativity with speed, flexibility, and the impact is clear. AI is no longer just enhancing creativity, it's transforming it. As we wrap up, I encourage you continue to experimenting, scaling, and share your learning. And I also would like to ask you to join our special edition of AI Horizon Bootcamp on the Cloud and AI Bootcamp. We actually have our global leader leading our the Microsoft Global AI and Data Business, Zia Musso, to be our guest speaker. So please join us with our next episode of the Cloud and AI Bootcamp. With that, I'll wrap up for today, and thanks again for your time and thanks for joining us.